Hey guys, so as you can see, I went on a little bit of a spree. I bought myself a couple of the Mossery notebooks. Yes, there is the fancy schmancy card of Mossery. Their information is on the back. Well, some of it, I'll have them linked below for you guys. They're a pretty well-known company. A lot of YouTubers have done sponsor videos for them or have been sent free stuff for them. Not me. I bought. This is a notebook that I bought from them just because I was in there spending money anyway, so I figured, why not? I'll buy a notebook to go along with it. I got a softcover notebook just for funsies, and of course, spiral bound, and it's got the little wraparound elastic and everything. But this is the one. This here, guys, is their watercolor notebook, or their watercolor sketchbook. Now, I got it in hardcover because I want to be able to carry this one around with me and make it like a travel watercolor sketchbook. I got this one because I really wanted to compare it with the multimedia paper one that I do have. So right off the bat, the paper is like way thicker, like so thick, like that's what she said. And I really like it. Just the weight of it makes me very happy. There's not as much paper, but you know, overall it's watercolor paper. You never get as much. They sent another card along with it. You got the little folder in the back, like all of their stuff has, and of course the little elastic and the bookmark. And even the hardcovers are still the spiral bound, so you can flip the hardcover around to the back. But anyway, let me show you guys my multimedia one. There we go. It's got the multimedia paper in it. You guys, I think, have seen this one before from me. It is, let me open it up here. The paper is much thinner, and I'll go over the differences in just a second. I haven't used it as much as I should. I kind of got it and forgot about it. But I primarily use it with light washes and inks and some colored pencils. I just kind of experimented around with it and put it away afterwards. So yeah, that's pretty much what happened to it. But it's got my name on it, so I like it. But yeah, so those are my two, and I'm going to compare them for you guys. Yeah. Alright, so here are the big major differences. So the mixed media paper is 224 GSM. It has a fine grain with a smooth finish. It has both capabilities for dry and wet mediums. It comes with 38 sheets, and it is a bright white color for the paper. So there's that. And then the watercolor paper is 300 GSM. It has a textured or cold press finish to it, so it's kind of got a little tooth. It's meant for wet mediums. You get 28 sheets, and it's kind of got this off-white color to it. Alright, so getting right into the inks. As you guys know, if you've been on my channel for a while, you know that I use the acrylic ink, what is it? Oh my goodness, the Round FW acrylic. Now, for the multimedia paper, the acrylic ink does go on relatively smoothly. It's not a problem. It kind of sits closer to the surface, so it kind of slides against the surface, and I've always noticed that about it. But it does feel nice when you're inking, and I've never had a problem with it. It doesn't bleed through the paper. It doesn't oversaturate the paper like some inks do. It's not a thin paper. I'll just lay that out there for you. So ink is one of those mediums that this paper does hold very, very well. I've never ever had an issue with any inks in this paper, and I imagine it does ink washes just fine. Actually, I know it does because on the page before the one I'm using now, there is an ink wash picture on it, and it handles it just fine. So, you know, I ink heavily. Oh my goodness, I ink relatively heavily. That's what I meant to say. But yeah, so I just kind of go in there and go for it. Oh, watch this. Watch this wiggly camera work, guys. Anyway, so I just wanted to give you guys kind of a closer look on how I ink and what I'm talking about. So I'm using a brush which puts down a bit of heavier inks than like multi-liners, but again, this paper will handle multi-liners just fine. Can't say much to the effects of markers just because I don't use markers very often anymore, but yeah, for inks, it does good. It's a good boy. It does good. But yeah, so here we go. And ooh, it looks so good. It's so weird seeing myself ink. And Piper is so cute. So the watercolor paper is a little bit different, and I noticed it right away. It does what water paper is supposed to do, is it sucks in those wet mediums as opposed to um, multimedia or mixed media paper, which has the wet mediums kind of sitting closer to the surface. Watercolor paper will suck in the wet mediums, and that's what it does, and it pulls in that pigmentation. So your pigmentation is a lot more saturated and it's darker, I've noticed. So right off the bat, I noticed the inks tend to be darker. So the watercolor paper is great for that. If you're going to do inks and ink washes, the watercolor paper is fantastic for that as well. And I really enjoy it for that reason. And I'm actually debating on just going over to cold press watercolor paper. I'm sort of a hot press girl, but because you get such rich saturation with the cold press watercolor papers, I'm sort of leaning in that direction because it does so good. Those inks are so dark. The downside is I have to load my brush a little bit more because it pulls the ink right off the brush, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. Whereas with the mixed media paper, I find there's like thinner, more not transparent, but like less saturated areas that you can kind of see through. With the watercolor paper, you don't have that much of an issue because the inks are just thicker. I wish I could think of the terms to use to sound intelligent, but they're just escaping me at this moment. But yes, the watercolor paper takes the inks like a pro as well. But that doesn't surprise me because it's meant for wet mediums. So both handle inks really well. It just depends on the look you're going for. If you're going for like a nice soft inking look or like a ink wash sort of look, the mixed media paper does really well. And you'll be able to achieve the same thing with the watercolor paper. You'll just have to water down your inks a little bit more in order to achieve that look. Oh, it's my favorite part, the jawline. And it's so hard holding the camera to do it. Beautiful. Oh, I like watching that part. I'm sorry guys. I shouldn't watch myself. It seems so egotistical to watch myself ink and enjoy it, but there's something really calming about watching people brushing for some reason. So here you can kind of see what I'm talking about with the differences. Now, keep in mind that the paper is brighter for the mixed media paper versus the watercolor paper. The watercolor paper is just a tinge darker, but you can see that there's a clear difference in the ink tonality. It's quite a bit softer on the mixed media paper versus the watercolor paper, where you could see that the absorption rates are different. So depending on the kind of art you're trying to go for, you can plan your paper out for it. Right now we're doing the watercolor. Right off the bat with the mixed medias, mixed media paper is known for having the wet mediums to sit closer to the top, so you're more like pushing around your wet mediums as opposed to them absorbing, and that can have some really interesting effects. It just depends on what you're going for. And I have found that if you're going for sort of a more watery appearance or a streaky appearance, mixed medium is really fun for that. And in this case, I was trying to, and this is going to sound bad, I was trying to make mixed medium act the way that watercolor does. It's just not possible. They're not the same kind of paper. So my darks always end up streaky, but if you know how to plan ahead, which, you know, I typically do, and I was reminding myself of that as I was doing Piper's hair here. If you plan ahead, you can actually make your hair look incredibly great. If it's like a darker hair, you can make your hair look fantastic by planning ahead and getting the streakiness as a part of your design. It works great. I've done it before and I still do it to this day. Now I've noticed with the mixed media, because you have to thin because the mediums are so close to the surface that they do dry quite a bit faster. I didn't have to wait in between my layers, which was good, but bad at the same time. And then with the watercolor paper, of course, you know, that again, that watercolor paper is designed for wet mediums. So it absorbs everything. And I actually had a hard time seeing where I was going with Piper's skin tone because she's so fair skinned and the paper was just the right tonality that I was like, where is it? I can't see her skin tone. But I was able to blend her blush and everything. It looks super dark right now, but it lightens beautifully at the end. And I love it. I'm in love with it. But with the watercolor paper, because it's designed to pull in all that moisture, it does stay wet for quite a bit longer. So you do have to kind of wait in between. See, I just did it right there with the nose. It started to bleed. I was like, she had a nosebleed. How funny. So here I'm trying to do the brown hair and I'm worried I'm going to have the same problem as I did with the mixed medium. But if you work quick with your watercolors, you shouldn't have any streaking problems. And you can already see that the hair is drying in the solid color. So the watercolor paper is just, I like it. I like it a lot. So, I mean, it just shows you that it's a difference. It just depends on the kind of artwork that you're trying to show or what you're trying to achieve. So, yeah. Oh, it just turned out so cute. So here you can kind of see the difference between the two, and it also changes the tonality of the colors you're using. Now they were the exact same colors pulled from the exact same pans, and you can see that there's color differences. The yellow is much more saturated and sort of brighter on the mixed media paper versus the watercolor paper. But you can also see there's a bit of splotchiness. Now I usually correct that with colored pencil, so it's never a big deal to me. But some people like those nice flat solid colors in their watercolor pieces. I just use watercolor as a flat color, so that's the way I roll my homies. But yeah, you can see how it blended so nicely, and it's just beautiful. The grain doesn't show through. It's not like a strong grain. It's just a nice subtle grain, which is usually what I look for in cold presses. I don't like strong grainy colors. And then in the mixed media, you know, again, that streakiness is there. And the page buckles in the mixed media. I didn't use a crap ton of water on the mixed media except for towards the end. Part of that was to show you guys that it will buckle because it's not a watercolor paper. But over time that does settle and it does sort of flatten out. So, but I just wanted to kind of show you guys the differences between the two since I had the two and kind of share my opinions and, you know, show you what it's all about between the two different kinds of sketchbook papers that Mossery has to offer. I hope that this video was a little bit helpful. I'll have a link to the company below. You can order their stuff off their website. They have sales all the time, and now they offer the hardcover sketchbooks, which I don't know if they had it before, but I really like their hardcover one. I wish I had all of my stuff in their hardcover now. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's totally worth it. But thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like, subscribe, and comment below. Bye!